Welcome! In TF, we
We
judge!
judge.
And today we have a very special guest. The first and foremost, Prof Dr Sri Kumar. Please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me over today in TF Vikram. And it's been an honor for me to be here, part of your podcast. I've listened to so many of your podcasts.
Thank you, and
Yeah.
it's more of an honor for
Yeah,
us.
it's really an honor for us because this is like the first time
We actually have a guest.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's decide at the end of the session whose honor it belongs to.
We'll see.
Yes, so today we'll be discussing on prospects of careers and we'll touch on IR 4.0, including a bit of maybe AI, automation, and how it plays into future careers and our work life eventually. So, Prof. Sri, please tell us your view.
Well, I'm sure you all already read the news and you've seen so many Google updates that IR 4.0 is going to envelop the entire workforce in such a way that many of us may actually not have jobs in a few years. And that's what is so scared. People are so scared that
Yeah.
they may be redundant.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly natural, honestly.
And there's so many reports that have actually officially come out which have listed the top 50 jobs which can be retained and top 50 jobs which could be lost. But where do we stand?
Yeah. Actually that's actually something worth looking into, especially for us as healthcare staffs. There are things where robots are doing surgeries instead of us, but then I feel like ultimately it cannot replace the judgment and the diagnosis of a human being.
True.
The intellect is not there yet. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I feel like it's not there yet.
Not only that, in terms of emotions and being humane and
Yeah.
caring, these will not be offered by robots as much as almost every TV show on Netflix actually talks about
Yeah, that is true. That
talks
is
about
true.
robots and robot apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a new show which I was actually watching a couple of days ago. It's called Mother Stroke Android. It's about how robots who are trained domestic butlers suddenly come up against humans and they have an apocalypse.
That is a scary uprising.
There
to be
is a
honest.
scary uprising, yeah.
But it's the past few decades already, we've had robots operating on
Yep.
humans as well. But of course, these robots are operated by us. But of course, IR 4.0 isn't as scary as it sounds. But interestingly, do you guys know anything about IR 1 or 2 or 3?
I am not too well versed in it.
Neither am I.
Very interestingly,
Yes.
IR 1 came in the 1780s.
Okay.
That was the first industrialization, industries, invention of electricity and using water supply and so on.
Yep.
Exactly 100 years after that was IR 2, where all the industries came up. That was when pollution came up and all that. 100 years after that is IR 3, 1980s, when we had computers and automation and
Yeah.
everything. So IR 4 should come in 2080. Why has it crept in so early in 2017, 2018? That's because we are going faster.
Yeah.
And it is predicted that IR 5, between IR 3 and IR 4.0, there were just about 50 years. And between IR 4 and IR 5, we may just have another 10 or 15 years.
Then again, it also reflects on the educational state and the possibility of talents and the centralization of that. And in a sense, we should actually be proud that we are reaching industrial revolution. Instead of thinking them as an enemy, at least in my view, we should look at it as an ally to a certain extent. Yeah. We can if we were to so boldly say that AI has already reached its point to make its own judgment, then we should think of them as allies. They are maybe another species on its own, not necessarily as a living organism, but another being of consciousness. And as much as we can say consciousness plays a really huge role when it comes to humanity, right? Do we completely understand that, or do they completely comprehend our feelings and emotions? Because that's a very complex topic on its own. And again, the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have
actually
to.
that is true.
That's true, right? So, in a sense, just like humans, we have we have our strengths, our weaknesses, and I would think that it would be quite beneficial for us to work with each other, and we help out with areas that we work out in.
Like with
Yeah, so there's recently this cartoon series who is doing all this undercover about saying the Illuminati is actually real, and there's still an organization that has to run this illusion, right? And so here, our main protagonist is a very smart, studious girl. She is amazing with everything she does. She invents all the robots and AIs. Problem is, she's not as well versed to converse, or she's not as charismatic as one would be in a high up position. And so came in an intern from Yale's, and he's the most charismatic guy, but he can't do nothing on its own.
Yeah.
And so this series just plays a dynamic on how we take the brains and the charisma and making it the best of two worlds type of thing. And I think this is something that we might need to introduce for people to say that you don't necessarily have to be scared of it. We should embrace the changes and carry on from that.
Very well said. Yes. In fact, this one, as much as we feel that we should embrace the changes, this has been the main theme of many Hollywood movies right from time immemorial, like the Terminator series, where cyborgs take over. Cyborgs are actually meant to help us, but they take over. And until as recent as about, say, maybe 3-4 years ago, when Dan Brown had his book, The Origins, where at the end, I shouldn't be actually giving a spoiler. At the end, the whole thing, all the murders, everything was committed by the robot which was created by this person. And the robot made sure that he was killed himself so that the robot is immortal. So, well, having said that, everything is about AI, artificial intelligence, and automation now.
Yes.
So much so that at this point, there shouldn't be the three of us talking in this podcast. It should,
Yeah.
it should be three automated voices that are giving their feelings based on what they have done as a Google review.
Then
yeah.
again, the audiences have no idea who we are.
Yeah.
Could be. We might as well be just
That
AI
is
talking
true.
around.
Yeah. But then come again, there's also such things known as so-called deep learning, where they learn how to identify and be independent from just being controlled by someone, because the idea is to artificial intelligence, they have an intelligence of their own. That may or may not happen, that is something that we're not sure of yet. But if something were to happen where they can place a judgment or a diagnosis of sort, like Arki, I said, I agree that we should make them an ally instead of an enemy. It's just like how we seek for a second opinion when we have diagnosis, just to be sure of what we see. So I think I agree with what Arki have said, that we should make them an ally.
Well, not just make them an ally, they were created by us. So we should ensure that they fit into what they're supposed to do. For example, see, you are a dentist. I'm sure you're aware that right now we are doing a research in artificial intelligence in NASA with SkyMind, where we are using artificial intelligence computers to interpret radiographic data.
Yes.
So that in future, all you need is for the computer, when the radiograph comes out, the computer gives its own analysis. The same thing in pathology as well. Now we have so many softwares which actually give you the interpretation when the pap smear is ready or when everything is ready. Which means, as a pathologist, all I need to do is just know how to read English. all you need to do is how to read English. But you have to convey this to the patient. That's where you have humane, the care, the touch, and everything.
Exactly.
And so they are meant to be allies for us. And it is up to us to embrace them and to embrace the change. The problem is, man, when I say man, I mean woman too, mankind, we do not like to change.
We are very stubborn creatures.
Now, I'm sure you all drive down to your mall during the weekends.
Yeah.
And trust me, think about what I say now. When you drive down to your mall, you will always have a tendency to park in the same bay where you always park. You would move to a different bay only if your bay is occupied or
Yeah.
the same zone, because we believe in the same. We don't like change.
Yes,
And
we
That
do.
is true.
if I may, I'd like to tell a small story.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
sure.
please.
Go ahead.
There was this a group of National Geographic guys, a team that went to Africa to shoot animals using a camera, of course.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and
We
at that
don't
point,
condone violence.
and at that point, they saw in a village a herd of elephants that were actually tied to a rope, tied to a small peg with a
Okay.
very thin rope, which the elephant could easily break off. So
Mhm.
these people were mystified, and they asked the elephant trainer there that how come these elephants are so huge and strong, and they could just a slight twist of the leg, and this rope would come off, and it would break off, and they can actually go back into the wilderness.
Yep.
So this guy said, right from when these elephants were small, we tied them with the same rope. At that time, they were so weak that they could not break through the rope. And over the years, as they grow up, they are conditioned that it is the same, even though their strength is so enormous.
Mm.
That's the same with all of us. Our mind is conditioned to the fact that we do not like change.
Mm.
We are used to the same rope, and that rope is our life, our routine.
Mhm.
And so we get threatened when computers are there, when artificial intelligence is there,
Yep.
and so on. We feel that our peace and the bubble we are in gets deteriorate. Gets challenged,
Mhm.
It is.
and we are scared of challenges.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we should come out of that. What do you guys think?
I agree that I agree that we shouldn't be intimidated by it, because like as mentioned, they are just ultimately created by mankind. So for me, as just I would just speak in my opinion first, which is I wouldn't be scared of it. I would be scared of it being a habit where, like, life becomes so easy now because of all the technologies and everything, so we became dependent on it instead. So maybe that is the thing that people are scared of. They are scared of becoming dependent on it, and as mentioned, because humans are so afraid of changes. And I agree with that, because I'm someone who likes routine. I'm not really up for changes, but I think when there is a need for change, we need to change. So, yeah.
Much of a Wally reference right there.
Well, let me put you guys through a situation.
Yep.
This is just a hypothetical situation
Oh, yeah.
where you are going in for an eye surgery.
Mhm.
You have two options. One option where an arm from a machine brings a needle close to your eye, or the other option, a very senior trained eye surgeon brings a needle close to your eye. Who would you trust? And what would your reaction be in option one, in scenario one and scenario two?
There's a lot of variables to consider
Oh,
in
yes.
this one. Again, like how experienced or how how well functioning is the machine are we talking about here? And this senior surgeon that we are also talking about, how do you say this? Patch me up.
Experience.
It's not the experience, but how
The
so
stability.
is stability, the confidence, how yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes of age, there's also wear and tear both for the machines and humans as well. But yeah, could
If you notice, your answer is biased already. You straight away do not want to agree that the machine would be awesome. I would go in for the machine, or you would not straight away see. We are in IR 4.0,
Yes.
and when we have just been talking about AI and how we need to embrace, there is a hesitation in your voice. I'm sure it's the same in my voice
Yes,
too.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, which means that as much as we believe that technology is there for us, acceptance from our side is
Yeah.
Not
what we
there
need.
yet.
Yeah.
Is what we need. Now, this was just a hypothetical situation
course.
for me. Okay, and the same thing, we would feel that we would rely more on the surgeon who we know for years and who's done so many
Definitely.
surgeries rather than a robot. We are worried that what if the current suddenly goes off, or what happens, those kind of things.
Yeah. As for me, the first thing that came to my mind was, the machine might not know if I'm in pain or not. So that
Good
is
one.
that is one thing that I would be worried about. At least a surgeon, they can see, they are aware if I'm in pain or if I'm uncomfortable. They will know how to maybe calm me down a bit before they proceed. So that was what came to my mind first when I heard that.
True. In terms of change, Elon Musk has said this in his Instagram. I don't remember the exact words, but he says it's all in the mind, and that matters more. If you're given an opportunity or a chance to clean up your house in 30 days, you can do it, right? You will do it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yep.
Cleaning up your house. But then I suddenly come and tell you, no, I'm so sorry, the deadlines have changed. Clean up your house in 3 days. You will still be able to do it if your mind feels that you can do it.
Yes.
Okay, and this is the same not in just in cleaning the house, but also in the goals, in the ambitions,
Yes.
and in our perseverance as well. And I guess our minds can change when it comes to accepting artificial intelligence. But now, what about the jobs that are going to be lost? Again, there are many reviews that say that jobs will not be lost. Instead, they'll be molded or blended or amalgamated into something else.
Yes.
For example, a person who in a car factory, his role is just to make sure that maybe the door goes and fits into the main frame. The door fits, and so on. He may have another role where a robot now does it and replaces him, but he would actually do a quality control
Yep.
and make sure that the assembly line is perfect and so on. The same thing. Now, you don't need a person to go to a remote place in between here and Johor somewhere
Yeah.
to actually go up a telepost line and do the work there. You can do it remotely from here.
Yep.
But accordingly, your role changes. You may be given a few more telephone lines or something to handle.
Exactly.
So I guess that is how we will have to accept in the medical field as well.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure like a lot of factories, they use machines as well. As mentioned, they use ultimately human will be doing the quality control. So it's already in the industry
It's
where
already evident enough.
it's already evident enough where the machines cannot the machines will do the job, but then ultimately the humans will be doing the quality control or batch checking. So there will be this kind of how should I say, discrepancies sometimes. So we need to ultimately, it still depends on the human to do all this fine detail work.
Yeah, I agree. But having said that, I should also quote in a humorous way, machines are already controlling us. When I wake up in the morning, I just have to say, hey Google, good morning. And
Yeah.
Google tells me the weather for the day,
Yeah.
tells me what is the distance it takes from home to work and how the traffic is like.
Yep.
And it tells me to have my cut down on my coffee and make sure I do my workout.
Yeah.
And when Google stops all this, my favorite genre of music starts playing until I have to tell Google to stop. So it's like they are there already, even to do a quality control on us.
Yeah.
So much so that I guess we're being pampered.
That's actually true, because
It goes back to what you
it
were saying
goes to
earlier.
what I was saying
Yeah,
earlier, and
exactly.
I rely on Siri as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey Siri, how's the weather gonna be like today? Or what's the time now when I'm too lazy to wake up? It's like, sleeping in bed, and what's the time now? Or like remind me to set an alarm for what time, and then they will automatically do it for us.
So yeah, it's Siri or Alexa or Bixby or Google.
Yeah, but then like mentioned, we really have become dependent on them. It's just like how vacuum robots, those
Roombots.
cleaner
Roombots.
yeah, those cleaner robots where you just leave them there and then they'll clean the house for you. So I feel like we really became very, very dependent on them. It's just like how youngsters also, they can't live without their phones now. So
Yeah, true. You cannot afford to step out of your house without a phone.
yeah.
Because you need it for a QR code anywhere now.
Yeah.
Though this comes into perspective, in a sense, right? Yes, we do become dependent in a sense. But let's look back to when we first used shells as a point of currency. Yes, let's think of it that way. at first you had no point of currency, so you had to only use barter. And then came the shells. I'm sure at some point, like, oh, you youngsters are using shells. What if you guys run out of shells? And then it comes to the same point actually. So yes, we now have technology, and are we dependent on them to some extent? Yes. It also helps us with our efficiency. It gives us time to do less of what we call mundane, redundant work whatsoever. But carrying forward, it also gives us time to do something a little bit more meaningful. It gives us time with our families. It gives us time with our job, a little bit more creativity, and maybe a little bit of fun. So that's something that we might like broaden up in some sense. And to say, are we necessarily dependent, or are we integrating it into a better part of our lives and maybe a better part of humanity as well, seeing as how the point of currency from shells into cash and now into digitized and blockchains, it's been working pretty well. It's an evolution on its own, just like how Darwinian is.
The
So
human evolution.
more or less, it's based on the same foundation or the same principle. If you guys get my drift,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually,
In fact, guys, we've gone even beyond blockchains now. We've gone into NFTs.
Exactly.
People are investing in digital art.
yeah.
And maybe a few decades ago, the best way of saving would have been maybe my father saying that, thank God, by the age of 40, I've got myself a house where I can live and I can hand it over to the next two generations.
Yes.
But at the age of 40, now I would, maybe me or somebody here would be saying, wow, okay, at 40, I managed to get a small bit of digital art, which is a beautiful fish. Now, 40 years ago, nobody would have ever thought that you would buy a piece of digital art and that's an investment. But
Yes.
now that is an investment, which is one step beyond blockchain, which is beyond even Bitcoin and Ethereum. In fact, you need Ethereum to buy NFTs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody, even Snoop Dogg, Double G, and Kanye West, all of them are actually investing in this, and it is rapidly expanding.
Exactly.
So I guess in the years to come, things are changing so fast and so rapidly that, as I said, IR 5.0 may come in another 10-15 years. And at that time, I guess things are going to be even more different. By the time we adapt to this change, we should be ready to adapt to the next change.
yeah. But then again, I have something to elaborate. You know how in the past people will say, oh, by 2000 we will have flying cars. But then now look at us, we still don't have like abundance of flying cars.
Are there. It's just more of the legal aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem.
Exactly.
So yeah.
But there are a lot of changes already, you see. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, a marketplace was something where you could actually go shop around and buy stuff. Now a marketplace is just an app on Android where you buy your NFTs
Yeah.
on your Bitcoin. So
Exactly.
how things change.
I guess that just leaves us with the question to ponder on.
And a future to experience.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
So I think it's a good place to wrap it up. Prof, please, do you have anything you want to
I
tell?
have nothing to say, but I just realized that as we spoke, we actually discussed so many different aspects of technology and automation, and we could just keep going on and on and on.
Yeah.
So I guess we would save it up for another day, but it's just wonderful catching up with you guys and listening the feedbacks from different generations and trying to sort of see how well we can blend in and fit in and mold in into the present new changes in the world. And thank you so much for having me over.
Well,
We thank you for coming onto the show.
how
with
honored
us.
are we? We'll keep it for the comments. But in the meantime, in TF, we judge.